I see you. I am here. For centuries, African Bushmen have greeted each other in this way. When one becomes aware of his brother or sister coming out of the brush, he exclaims, "I see you." And then the one approaching rejoices by saying, "I am here." Just as important as bearing witness is the joy with which these Bushmen proclaim what they see. It is the joy of first seeing and first knowing. This is a gift of love. In a culture that erases its humanity, we are sorely in need of being seen with joy, so we can proclaim with equal astonishment and innocence that of all of the amazing things that could have been or not, we are here. As far back as we can remember, people of the oldest tribes, unencumbered by civilization, have been rejoicing in being on earth together. Not only can we do this for each other, it is essential. For as stars need open space to be seen, as waves need shore to crest, as dew needs grass to soak into, our vitality depends on how we exclaim and rejoice, "I see you, I am here." So turn to the person next to you and say these words to each other.
Everybody, please join me in singing number 347 in your gray hymnal, "Gather the Spirit." And please rise as you are able in body or spirit.
Good morning. I'm Deb Haken, and my husband Paul and I will be sharing leadership of today's service with our son Josiah Haken, who is CEO of City Relief. For about 25 years of our almost 50 years of marriage, we served as missionaries in Nigeria and Cameroon, where Josiah was born. We have had the joy of being members here at UCH for about a year, and we are delighted to have Josiah with us today. In the spirit of the transformative power of community in all of its forms, I'm so happy to welcome you to UCH. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. Whether you are a member or a visitor joining us in person or virtually, we are so happy that you've chosen to join us this morning. For our worshipers online, a Zoom online coffee hour will follow the service starting at 11:30. For those here in person, we will have coffee hour in the common room downstairs. There will also be an informal question and answer time and a chance to buy Josiah's book from 11:45 to 12:45 in the Fuller Chapel, which is on this side of the sanctuary. Just go down the hall there. And you can go down and get your coffee and bring it up and enjoy it there in that question and answer time. We're delighted you have chosen to join us today, and we welcome you to our fellowship hours and any other in-person or online activities held by UCH. Please join us now in the reading of the unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. As we light the chalice this week, we imagine the lights that shine within each of us. We each have intention, we each have experiences, we each have thoughts, we each have feelings, and we each have wisdom. May this light remind us to be in touch with those best and unique lights of our own being and to bring them into this room and into all that we do in the world.
Good morning. My name is Corey, and I serve as your Director of Religious Exploration. Today's story is titled Home. It's a story of two children thrust into homelessness and uncertain housing situations. It's written by Tanya Lippert, who experienced homelessness herself as a child. When they were little, Claire and Wes had the brown house. They called it home. Stairs led to treasure. Tables made good hiding places. Claire tied flowers into wreaths so it would be more beautiful. Wes drew pictures for walls. They planned adventures for today and tomorrow. When they were bigger, Wes and Claire's family had a big change with big words. Goodbye, brown house. With nowhere of their own to arrive. Nowhere is a confusing place for a visit from friends. Claire tried to make nowhere beautiful to her, but nowhere kept changing. Claire stopped trying. Wes ripped up his pictures. After nowhere, somewhere came, a place to stop and wait. Somewhere was better than nowhere and anywhere. Claire and Wes still plan adventures for today and tomorrow. Wes and Claire imagine their names first on a list. The leaves change colors. Claire and Wes followed their swirling and twisting to school. Claire played make-believe games with her friends. Wes raced with his. Both kept the shelter a secret at first. Claire worried her friends would worry. Wes worried his friends would forget that even though he had no house, he was still Wes. When the nights were lines with strangers, Claire and Wes found comfort where things made sense, where the answers were easy. Even when kids asked about things that made no sense and the answers were hard, how come you live there? Are you poor? Do your mom and dad work? The questions kept Wes and Claire from pretending nothing was lost and helped them remember what would always be with them wherever they went. When they moved into the blue house, Claire and Wes learned that some things never go away. And when they can count on love, for each other. Soon, when the time of big changes seemed long ago, Wes and Claire danced inside a house, strong, warm, and bright. Claire tied the flowers into a wreath. Wes drew pictures for the walls. They planned adventures for today and tomorrow, but they never forgot what it was like to be nowhere, somewhere, or anywhere. Thank you.
This is the time in our service when we invite you to come forward and to share a joy or sorrow or a concern. And if you're with us online, we invite you also to participate by writing a joy or sorrow or concern in the chat box. And a tech person here will write that down on a piece of paper and hand that to me to share publicly. If you would like to share something that's not public and you don't want it shared, please indicate that also with your writing in the chat box. And for our in-person worshipers, we invite you to come forward by coming up the center aisle, and then we have some water here with stones. You can drop a stone in the water as a symbolic way of expressing your concern, or you can light a candle over here at this station to put the candle there as a symbol of your concern or your joy. We want to be a community of individuals that bear each other's burdens or rejoice with each other as we rejoice. So we take this seriously, and we hope that you will participate. And if you do write on a piece of paper, there's paper up here. You can write down your concern here. Please, if you want to put your name, that will be shared. If you want to write something that's not shared publicly but is given to the pastoral care team of the church, that's also possible. But please note on the paper, this is not to be shared, and so that will not be read. I think that's clear now. Since I don't know everybody really well, I haven't been here all that long, please, I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name or have trouble with reading it. At this time, we'll invite you to come forward. may be feeling but hesitated to come up and put in the water or on the channel. These are the concerns that have been expressed. Was there anything from the chat? Okay, okay, thank you. This one is from Margaret Cavron. Love to the unhoused in Harrisburg. This one from Karen Sykes. Our son in the Air Force will be deployed to Japan in the middle of February. And I apologize to Karen because that was marked that it was not supposed to be shared. So I apologize very sincerely. This is from Ann Stillwater. I'm sending love and hope to one of my students whose family has been working towards a housing voucher for more than a month so they can leave a shelter. This is from David Powell. This Tuesday, January 17th, marks the first anniversary of the death of my son, Raymond Powell. It's been a tough year. On the positive side, I have 3 beautiful granddaughters, aged 7, 10, and 15. This one from Irma Cameron. My son, Charles Bowes, directs his first one-act play called Swamped this week at Harrison High School in Philadelphia area. And this one from Daniel Flatley. My beloved nephew, Jonathan, took his own life over the summer. Those are the concerns that were shared. Why don't we take a moment just to feel with these individuals and feel and just to be with them in our spirits and to lift them up, hold them in our hearts and in our prayers. Let's take a moment of silence. My wife and I are thrilled to have our son with us here today to share about our homeless neighbors. After the service, as you leave, if you're unable to stay for the Q&A and would like to take a book along with you, I can make that happen in the lobby afterwards, so please don't hesitate to ask about that. And now, as a prelude to Josiah's message, I'm going to be reading a brief paragraph from the introduction to the book, Neighbors with No Doors. This is what Josiah writes in the introduction. I believe that in order for us to collectively address the issue of homelessness, we need to start by changing the narratives we tell ourselves about the individuals who experience it. Homeless is not a state of being. People experience homelessness, and people are not an issue. The issue is in italics. They are not a political talking point. They are not a blight or an eyesore. I don't believe anyone should be defined by their living situation. These are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, friends, and neighbors. They are college students, war veterans, athletes, mechanics, teachers, and musicians. And I might add, they are bus drivers. They are survivors. They are contributors. They are human beings with intrinsic value and dignity. Thank you, Joe.
It is so good to be with you this morning. I can tell you that, growing up, like my mom mentioned earlier, that I spent a lot of time in houses of worship with my parents, and usually I was in the back running around, and they were up front, doing what they do. So it's kind of an ironic twist that here we are in sort of reverse order. It feels a little backwards, but it's good. It's good. I just want to start off by just saying that I never planned on working in this space. I don't know if you wake up one day, not many kids dream of working with homeless people in the streets every day. It's not like, usually it's firefighter, police officer, doctor, athlete. So it's, again, I don't think a lot of people plan on going the direction that I went. Candidly, growing up, I didn't really think much about homelessness. I went to Hershey High School. I graduated in 2004 and got married to my girlfriend in 2005. She got a job at Lancaster General Hospital, and back when, I think that's what it used to be called. I don't think it's called that anymore. But it just wasn't top of mind. It wasn't something that I saw every day. It was when my wife and I moved from central Pennsylvania to New Jersey and New York area, that things got a little interesting. One of the things I realized is that the cost of living a little higher in New Jersey. You get a little closer to New York City and the price goes up for everything. I was having trouble finding a job at the time that paid a living wage. I had been working in sales for a kitchen remodeling company in Central PA, but when we moved, I had trouble finding something. I applied at Lowe's and Home Depot and a bunch of places and just didn't get a call back at the time. And so I got a job at Starbucks making lattes for wealthy people. Steve Forbes would come into our Starbucks. That was fun. In case you're wondering, Steve Forbes drinks an iced quad espresso. I can't guarantee that that's the secret to his wealth and success. But in case you're wondering, if you want to we get an iced venti cup, fill it with ice, then pour 4 espresso shots in it, and then they call it a day. And that was his drink of choice. That's free of charge. Came with the price of entry, that tip. But as working at Starbucks, I was trying to find my way, just like most young people, and I got invited to volunteer with an organization that would take these retrofitted school buses into the streets of New York City, into Harlem and South Bronx and Midtown, and the bus actually, the window, the side of the bus opens up, so we park along the sidewalk and the bus opens up, and then we invite our homeless neighbors and really anybody to come and receive a free hot meal. We give away toiletries and socks and essentials with the hope that we can connect to people on a human level, and we can actually engage them with dignity and compassion, which then we can leverage for that trust that's established to help point people towards resources and services, and we can function as advocates for our guests, and we can help them access things that honestly, unfortunately, a lot of people have trouble accessing. Getting help is not always a matter of simply wanting it. Sometimes you need to know the secret handshake. You need to know the time to go, or the person to talk to. There's a bureaucracy you have to follow, and there's all these hoops you have to jump through. And so by setting up and establishing a place where people can come to us, we're able to connect with people on a human level, and then hopefully point the way, sort of as guides. For me, when I first volunteered, I didn't know what to expect, because I've never been homeless. Again, it wasn't a top-of-mind issue. It wasn't something I thought about. But I very quickly realized that I was wired for the work. On my first day in the South Bronx is one of the poorest congressional districts in the United States. It's also one of the most diverse districts in the United States, and it also happens to be right where, when COVID hit, it really decimated the population in that area. And East Harlem is another similar situation. East Harlem is an area where it's gentrifying quickly. A lot of wealth is coming into the area, but a lot of the poor are being pushed out. And there's a lot of people who end up with nowhere to go because that's their home. They grew up in that area, but now they've been priced out of their area. And so it was interesting for me when I first showed up. I didn't think I had anything to offer. I didn't think I had anything to contribute because I'd never experienced it. Hadn't even really thought about it that much. But I quickly realized that human beings everywhere are just that. They're human beings. My first week in East Harlem, it was particularly interesting. I met a man named Malik. And again, had no clue what I was doing. None. I was there. That's basically the only skill set I had going for me. And Malik approached me, and Malik had this, he was this guy who was just jacked. He looked like he worked out 24 hours a day. I could only dream of having muscles like Malik. There's no way. And he was funny and clever, and he didn't present, if I had bumped into him at the grocery store, if I'd bumped into him on, at a friend's house, I never would have even occurred to me that he was in the street without a place to live. And it was funny because Malik was telling me jokes and I was laughing, and then he kind of opened up kind of randomly and was like, do you know any place I could help me get into detox? Because he struggled with alcohol addiction. And I was like, well, I don't have the foggiest idea. I'm new here, but let me see if I can get you connected. And so I got the right people connected to Malik, and quickly realized that he was having a bad time because he had no phone. His phone had been lost, so he couldn't call a place to find out where to get help. He didn't have any ID, so in terms of getting connected to the right insurance and finding a place that would take him, that became kind of a complication that we had to work around. But as we're trying to figure this out, as we're trying to navigate this for Malik, I asked him, I said, well, when did you first start drinking? How long have you been homeless? And he told me that he was 13 years old. And when he was 13 years old, his mom, he was living with his mom in the projects in Harlem, and she had a boyfriend that would come over, and the boyfriend ultimately would beat up the mom and pick on her when he got drunk, and then Malik would try to jump in and try to intervene, and unfortunately that led to him getting beat up. And so he kind of took that for his mom, but as he got bigger, his retaliation started to hurt the boyfriend a little more and more. He didn't like apparently getting hit back as much as he liked hitting people, which is also not an uncommon thing I've noticed in humans. But so the boyfriend went to mom and said, look, you choose. It's me or your son, because I'm not going to stay here anymore. And she chose the son. She chose, the boyfriend. Because of her abuse and because of her trauma and because of everything that she brought into that situation, she felt like she had to choose the boyfriend. And so Malik ended up in the street at the age of 13. And that's also when he started drinking, because he needed to start medicating and coping with the reality of his situation. And that's the reality that for him, 30 years later, I meet him on the sidewalk. And I think part of the problem that a lot of us have, and the part of the problem that we struggle with as a society, is that as human beings, we are designed to create narratives in our minds that explain why someone does what they do or lives the way they live. And to be honest, those narratives almost always reinforce the myths that we tell ourselves that explain where we are in the best possible light. Or put another way, in the stories I tell myself to explain the world, I am always the main character. I am the hero in the story. That's just how humans are wired. And so when I think of homelessness, I put myself into the story, and then I develop a story that I think will explain why someone is in this situation. So when I saw Malik, I saw a man who was fit, I saw a man who was funny, I saw a man who was gregarious, and so in my mind I developed a story of him as a successful, stable, strong, able-bodied person, except here he was, a kid at 13, being kicked out of his only home by the mother who was there to protect him. And I think that is a common thing, that sometimes when we think about the issue of homelessness, when it comes to homelessness, we don't like the idea as human beings that at any point in time, given a different set of circumstances, that could actually be me. I don't think we like that. We don't like that story. That story doesn't fit. And so to avoid that uncomfortable reality, we tell ourselves a story. We tell ourselves a story about the foolish, mentally ill drug addict, the vagabond who clearly likes sleeping outside because he doesn't like to work. Because that story ultimately allows me to continue to be the hero in the narrative, and that person to be the perpetuator of the issue rather than the victim of circumstance. And so we blame the victim. We blame the victim and we reinforce the cultural narratives that people experiencing homelessness are there by choice. Now again, this is very common. If you pay attention to the news, if you pay attention to the stories, if you pay attention to the noise around homelessness, around shelters, around low-income housing, you will hear this narrative. This is the story that we are telling ourselves, that the homeless are a problem to be solved, not a people to be loved. And it's incredibly convenient. It's an incredibly convenient story to believe, because not only does this keep me protected from the terrible possibility of misfortune, because I have a job and I have a house. So it allows me to sort of avoid that, but it also removes any obligation on my part to lift a finger to help the person for whom the lived experience of homelessness is a reality. Because deep down, they want to live that way. And helping them would only encourage their poor decision making. Now, I can tell you, after working in the streets of New York City and New Jersey for over a decade, I am more convinced now than ever that nobody chooses homelessness. Even the people who tell you that they are choosing homelessness are actually grasping for a lived experience that is better than their alternatives. Give you change the game a little bit to put it this way. sex work is something that is very stigmatizing in our culture. It's a very hot button issue, and it's something that we're all aware of, but sometimes don't come face to face with. But the thing is that if you told me that if I met someone who was was a sex worker, and they told me that they had 4 job opportunities, and the one they chose was to be a sex worker out of the 4, I would say, what were the other 3? Right? If option 4, now that person may say, I choose to be a sex worker. My question is, okay, well, what are the alternatives? What are you choosing against? What are the other options? If life is a multiple choice test and you're choosing option D, tell me what A, B, and C are before I tell you why and who should choose D. Homelessness is a lot like that. What are the options? What are the choices? What's the menu that people have to choose from that allows them to say, look, I am choosing to be homeless? I don't believe people choose to sleep in a tent under an overpass. I believe they are choosing not to sleep in a congregate shelter surrounded by people they don't know in a confined space with limited freedom and even less dignity. So I wrote the book, Neighbors with No Doors, with the goal of dismantling the cultural narratives that I believe only perpetuate the issue, while also providing the average citizen with tools that we can all use to engage and connect with our homeless neighbors, because small acts of kindness can actually make a huge difference. Now, I go more in depth in this, and I realize I don't have a lot of time, but the goal, again, for me, anytime I talk in front of any place, is to I want us to think about the narratives that we have in our head around people who are different, and people who are struggling, and people who are hurting. And we recognize, as soon as you recognize the tape that's playing in your mind that tells you why that person does what they do or is where they are, is to question what other variables may have come about that led this person to this situation. So there's a lot to cover, and again, I've done workshops that are like 3 hours long, 5 weeks in a row, so I'm trying to distill this all down into 5 minutes, which is gonna be fun. So there's more, so if you have questions about this topic, again, I look forward to chatting with you more, but I wanna give you 5 things right now, 5 things that I believe that we can all do to not only counter the narratives that tell us who is where and why and what their situation is, but actually empower us to do something about it. So number 1, don't look away. Don't look away. You will miss 100% of the people that you do not see. If there are folks around you, I guarantee there are people in this area in Harrisburg who are struggling. And if they're not already homeless themselves, if they're not already in a shelter or in the lower income housing, there are many, many people, maybe even some in this room, who are on the edge. There are people who are on the edge, and the fact is, if you are not looking for those people, you will not see them, because they are intentionally staying beneath the surface because of the shame and because of the ridicule that comes from the stigma that we tell about homeless people. Don't look away. Number 2, plan ahead. If you're in an area where people are down on their luck or tend to congregate, or you drive a route that passes by someone who holds up a cardboard sign asking for support, bring supplies with you. Plan accordingly. Leave a little earlier. Now, again, people mostly drive around in cars in this area, and where I work at a lot, people take the subway and the trains, and there's a lot more interaction with, so like it's more in their faces. That doesn't mean it's not there. You just have to look for it, and you have to plan ahead. Bring a bottle of water with you and keep it in your car. Keep a $5 bill that's a designated gift for you to have for when someone asks. Be prepared with a toiletry kit of supplies that you can offer someone so that they can wash up and feel like a human being again, so they don't smell themselves for the first time in a few days. Be prepared, plan ahead. And then engage. Engage. If you don't engage with people, if you don't make eye contact, if you don't smile, if you don't, again, these are a population of people who have been told their whole lives, in many cases, that they are worthless and not worthy of your time. And so if you do not engage them, unless they have convinced themselves that this is what I have to do to survive, and they are actively panhandling, which I would argue is just the very tip of the homeless iceberg, then you're going to miss the opportunities to engage, because many folks will not engage with you until they know that you are a safe person to engage with. And the thing about homeless folks I have found is that they are very perceptive. They can read you like a book, and if they sense that you are scared, that you are angry, that you believe that they are worthless, that they should just get a job, I promise you they will avoid you faster than you can avoid them. So engage by being intentional, of reaching out. Don't wait for the person to reach out to you. You reach out to them, and you don't have to have all the answers to be effective. Number 4, volunteer with organizations and people who are already addressing the issue of homelessness. I know there is lots happening in this area already. There's lots of organizations that you are already connected with. Maybe you're connected to this community, but you haven't been connected to the organizations and the nonprofits that this community supports. And I would encourage you, if you're giving to support that organization, try actually showing up and volunteering. Call them up. Ask them what they need. Because again, as a leader of a nonprofit, I can tell you we need all the help we can get. So don't be shy. Maybe you do website design, maybe you're a truck driver, maybe you have skills with painting, maybe you don't even like talking to people, and you're like, look, I don't want to volunteer to help people, but I can paint a wall. Guess what? I guarantee you there's a nonprofit somewhere that needs that wall painted. So you have something to offer, and I would say find a way to get involved and volunteer. Homelessness is a complex issue, and it will require an all-hands-on-deck approach to do something about. And lastly, I would say, please consider yourself an advocate. An advocate is not just someone who speaks up and shouts, from the rooftops about an issue. An advocate can simply be someone who asks good questions, someone who's curious, someone who investigates, be an advocate. Why is that person there? What led them to that place? What is going on in our community that is leading people to fall between the cracks? What is it? How can you use your voice to make a difference? Again, you don't have to make a splash to make a difference. You can be an advocate. Some of us may even need to get involved politically, and some of us may need to go upstream. Some of us may need to go, so for our organization, we pull people out of the water, right? They're already in, and we're pulling them out. You might need to be the person who goes upstream and actually makes a difference by keeping people from falling in. So with that, I'm going to close with one of the lines I use in my book towards the end, is that homelessness is the ocean where all the streams and rivers of injustice pool when they are left undetected and undeterred. What can you do about it? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. This is our time of offertory, and our church shares this month's offering with Susquehanna Harbor Safe Haven. It is a residential facility offering support and stable housing to men and women who are chronically homeless. It is managed by Christian Churches United in the Tri-County area. And to be honest, I just looked them up on their website. I didn't know anything about them. It's amazing. You got to look it up. Besides giving money to this ecumenical organization, there are lots of different opportunities to volunteer to help. Go to their website to find out how you can help local adults and children who are experiencing homelessness. There's so many ways we can, and they list them. So I encourage you to do that and I will receive your offering now for this wonderful organization.
Thanks to each one of you for coming today or for tuning in online. May we go in peace, conscious and grateful for our good fortune, if we have homes waiting for us, and determined to be generous with our love and our resources for those who struggle to find shelter. And as I extinguish the chalice, now let each of us take the fire with us wherever we go, the warmth of kindness and generosity to ourselves and others, the light of awareness and observation and seeing the events and the people around us, the aroma, pleasant, amiable, welcoming, calming. Go in peace. You are dismissed.